Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Alexander Williamson here with The Secret History, living in my friend Greg.
Hello, everybody.
This is my buddy Greg from Cambodia, and no, he's visiting from Florida. He lives in the Tampa Bay area. He's my lawyer. If you ever have any questions, ask him. Stop asking me. No, how are you guys doing today? How is everybody feeling? Today, I figured we would talk about something that I didn't have to do any research more than I've already done. I'm going to be frank with you. I've had a rough week as far as pain goes. I did the last live stream we did. You know, I don't know why the light keeps coming in and out. Hold on, let's try to fix this. The last live stream we did was a meditation, guided meditation. Oh, it's the reflection off that house across the street. It's whatever. But in any case, we did a guided meditation because I was in a lot of pain, and I'm still in a lot of pain. Today, though, I had my cortisone shot. Come on, this light thing is really rough. Had my cortisone shot, and so hopefully things get better from here out. But what I wanted to do, I can't close my window, unfortunately. I could move locations, but I don't want to because of where the router is and the way this is set up. And it's the only spot I have where Greg can sit here. And he is a master of ethics inherently as a lawyer. It's going to be a talky episode rather than looking at the fish tank so much today. Obviously, we've done a lot of fish tank episodes lately where we look at the fish tanks. So today we're going to just be chatting. Also, I'm happy to do any questions and answers about anything. Doesn't have to be related to the topic, as always. So this is really a live stream kind of for you guys. I mean, I have the subject to talk about since we don't have another subject at hand, basically. So you guys can take this where you would like it to be taken, or we'll just talk about what I was going to talk about, which is some of the ethics involved in keeping fish. And I think we've talked about things like which fish are not ethical to collect in the wild because they're endangered, which fish you shouldn't keep because, you know, they could get out and ruin the ecosystem, things like that. There are a lot of reasons why you may not, why you just shouldn't have a fish in particular, a certain species. But today I'm coming at it from more of the angle. We can touch on those other angles, but I'm coming at it from the angle of, are fish sentient beings, and do they deserve better than the experience we can provide for them? So I think we kind of need to rip this apart into several different pieces. And the first one would be, what do these fish feel? Do they feel emotions, or do they have a process of logic or reasoning or anything along those lines? And I think it's probably safe to say that logic and any abstract thinking, we likely so far haven't seen. Maybe in cuttlefish, octopus, things like that, perhaps. But when we're talking about, say, like a tetra or a betta or something like that, probably not. Although you look at some of the predators like pea puffers or puffer fish, and they definitely do think about how they're going to come at something when they're thinking about attacking and eating, like a snail. You'll watch them swim around the snail, size it up, and look for a weak point. Now, this is, I mean, you could say this is instinctual, but it shows some level of thinking. And even the fact, you know, the whole myth, let's just dispel this at the beginning, which is that fish don't have a long memory. Like goldfish only have a memory of 3 seconds or 8 seconds or 5 minutes or whatever the myth is. Well, it's just simply not true, because if you have goldfish or any fish, you know that when you have food in a can and you shake it above the aquarium, they all come. Or even sometimes if they just see you, they come to eat. Even certain times a day they come to eat. Isn't this weird how this is just like, whoa. And because of that, that there shows that they have the memory of, oh, food, or at least that they remember it when they see it. So we can dispel that right now. But what are the ethics of it? Should you allow a fish to live a long life? You know, that's another one. In the wild, you know, when I've caught fish, native fish around here, you guys have seen the condition that they generally are in. It's not so good. It's kind of bad. A lot of times they have leeches. They have gill flukes. They have worms in their stomach. All sorts of issues. So is it better for us to take care of those issues, or is that all just part of nature and they evolved with it and have had it for 200 million years or whatever, and that's that? Who cares, right? I mean, that's kind of where the debate lies, and what your opinion is on that. So let's go on the side of assuming that these fish do think. Let's at least give them the benefit of the doubt of a cat or a dog, just so that we can rule out any arguments on the extreme, and just so we're fighting that, or discussing that thought experiment. Now, I haven't even flushed this out yet. We're just talking about, you know, doing this right now. And I figured my buddy Greg, who is, like I said, a lawyer, might have some insight on some of this. Because so even let's say now let's talk about humans for a second. So if you have a family member that is in a coma or that's had brain damage and there's no chance that they come back, but their organs and their life systems are functioning, are they still a person? Are they still worth? I mean, legally speaking, we agree that that's murder if you walked into the hospital and shot that person in the head in the hospital bed. That would be murder, correct? Yeah? Okay. And same with a newborn baby, right?
That's all.
Even though a newborn baby may not have a way to communicate. So we could say that maybe fish have maybe fish have the same intelligence as a brand newborn baby. I doubt that they even have that, honestly, in most ways. But say they do, we give rights to those things. So what kind of rights should we extend to our fish? Now, I mean, you guys know I have 30 fish tanks, so I think you know that I've come to terms with these issues. But I do think that people who are frequently on forums, I usually see it when it comes to betta fish, they talk about what they deserve, or what they need to be happy. And I don't know that asking if they're happy is a possible thing to do about fish. For me, if they're able to reproduce and grow healthy and reach their full size and live longer than they are known to live in the wild generally, to me, that makes sense that they're living a good life. That being said, I've seen fish kept in cages, tanks, whatever, way too small for them. And I think that that's cruel, personally. But they survive and they live longer. So length of life, I think we can probably say, is not
the measure.
Not the measure. So quality of life would probably have to be the measure that we're looking at.
But
and it does.
The quality of life is very difficult, especially when that's where you have to get into measuring the cognition level of the different fish that you're dealing with.
So then we have to look at what the fish, yeah, like Greg just said. Can you guys hear Greg at all? Let me know. But oh, by the way, they say they like your shirt.
Ah, the dead people out there.
Yes, the dead. And so, by the way, hello everybody. I see that there's lots of folks coming in. It's good to see y'all in there, all in here. Greg is in town because Fish was coming to town. Well, not really. I mean, they're coming to 4 hours away from Seattle. And some of the folks from Aquatic Arts actually are coming out on a plane, leaving on a jet plane to come into Seattle and hang out also to go to the show. However, I don't know that I'm going to the show anyways, especially with how I've been feeling. So yeah, walking around a steep hill out in the mountains and then a 4 hour drive it may be a bit rough. Hopefully I get better, but I just thought I'd throw that out there, especially with his shirt and all, maybe to give you a little context. But yes, Patty, I saw that you were excited about the shirt. So right back at you. Greg is excited that you're excited.
Okay.
And let's see here. So let's see what's everybody saying sorry for. What happened? Going to be listening. Oh, you're dealing with a little sicko. Sorry. I hope whoever's sick, if it's a kid, gets better. I assume they will get better. I would hope. Thanks for holding it down, Moz, Zen Ginger. Thank you. You rock. Appreciate you telling people to hit the like button and all those things that feel like I shouldn't ethically tell you to do that. But it is a good reminder if you feel compelled and within your own rights and freedoms, if you want to hit the like button, I'll allow it today.
I wouldn't be against asking them to.
You wouldn't be against
No,
it?
I don't
Okay.
think,
We've decided.
I respect their ability to make decisions for themselves.
My legal counsel says that I can tell you guys to hit the like button.
I said ask.
Oh, ask. These are different words.
Yeah.
Okay.
Words mean.
Will you please hit the like button, or I will hunt you all down. All right. So we talked about just now the boiling down to the essence of the argument, which is which fish are too smart to be in a cage. For me, an octopus, a cuttlefish, those ones are too smart, or we don't know enough at least. And yeah, we're 61 likes behind how many people are here. You guys must hate me. So, oh, Mick says my lawyer is not like him at all. He wears a Zappa shirt.
That's awesome.
So, I think that determining that, like mormerids are one that we're learning more about. Now, we had no idea that, I mean, we knew they spoke and communicated and navigated with electrical impulses. However, we had no idea that they had a vocabulary of over 30 words and that they paused when one another were speaking and that they actually have past and present and future tense in the sense of I already ate, you go ahead. Like basically they have a confirmation. If they make a noise and someone says there's food over here, one of the responses is I'm okay, you go. And same with like there's females to mate with over here. They'll say I'm okay, you go, or I'm coming. So that's a notion of time probably in a weird way. I mean, maybe not in a complex way, but it makes you wonder if they should be in the aquarium. And I feel bad because, in a way, I mean, I feel bad for them. But at the same time, those same fish, what is their probable fate to be? If you do indeed think they're sentient and capable of fear or past and present tense, maybe in some cases, I'm pretty sure like an ember tetra is as dumb as a rock. I'm just gonna throw that out there. They're pretty. I love them. I'm not gonna hurt them ever. I still think these creatures feel pain. That's another myth that fish don't feel pain, and it's just dumb because of course they feel pain. Of course there is a sense if they're scared, if they feel a bite, they're gonna run. I mean, you wouldn't live without a sense of fear. And then why would you have fear if there's no pain and you have no abstract concept of an afterlife? Then you'd have no reason to fear anything unless pain or memory of pain or anticipation thereof pain was a part of your life. So to me, what do you think about that?
No, 100%.
So you think that they have the knowledge of
Well, as soon as they hit the hook, they start running.
right?
Okay. It's just fear and a reaction. I know it's not automated. That's a response mechanism.
Okay.
So they definitely have that awareness of that impending doom or danger or whatever.
Right.
So that's
and so assuming they evolved like most reptiles, mammals, birds, that means they probably have an adrenaline system. I mean, they do. They have adrenaline, and they have this system of internal hormones and steroids. Basically, when they're scared, their blood is going to go to their organs that are important. The blood will go away from the exterior fins, just like when you or I are. Man, this is really doing this a lot. I thought this light would pass as soon as the sun reflection was done. But in any case, so assuming that if you guys have ever had like say you've had a car pull out in front of you and almost hit you, and your heart goes racing a million miles a minute, and you may feel tingly in your lips and tingly in your fingers because you're hyperventilating. And the other part is because the blood, and if you've ever had panic attacks, you really know about this, but the blood goes away from your face, away from your skin, just in case you're going to get cut or bit by like a lion or a tiger, or you fell and you have cuts, and your blood goes to your core, just like when you go into shock, which we can't control. That's a physiological, I mean, maybe through meditation and things, people can control some of these reptilian brain things. But for the most part, these are coming from your amygdala or your pituitary gland and then into your thyroid. These chemical reactions are very almost brainstem-ish. So it makes me you had me at tingly lips, Rico Stan says. Thanks, Rico Stan. I appreciate it, Rick. And by the way, this guy, doesn't he look like Jerry Garcia? Like this is like
without my glasses.
Okay. He looks like a blur. Looks like Casper, the friendly ghost. But yeah, if you've had anxiety before, you guys know that you go numb. It's because the blood's going into important organs. Well, the same thing happens to fish. So they must have at least a biological built-in response, like Greg was saying, to run when there are dangers. I mean, if they didn't, they would get eaten and die. Like, so there is a disorder in animals that evolves sometimes, and it's called isolated tameness. And I think that's the agreed upon term, or it's either like isolation. What's another word for tame? Tim. Isolation induced timidness. But basically, it happened to the dodo bird. So it happened to many birds in Hawaii as well, and New Zealand. There's parrots that live on the ground in New Zealand, and they hop around, but they're in environments where, for instance, Galapagos tortoise, where there was nothing to hunt them on the ground, they lose the adrenaline fear response for an attack. There's no reason for millions of years when they're on a really remote island. It's like a volcanic island. Now, other islands, it's not as true, but just like being on an island can cause animals to evolve smaller or bigger, one of the consequences that happens oftentimes is they don't need that ability to, for instance, fly. And a lot of times, the things that they do to get away from danger are no longer systems that are kept. And so their actual neurological wiring undoes that. And I wonder, though, if that happens to isolated fish in isolated lakes or something like that. Just kind of an interesting thought. I'm just trying to see what you guys are saying too. Dee Dee says, if they were wild, they would probably go extinct, get scared, drop over, and wolf gobbles them up. Yeah. Yeah, if they were on the mainland, definitely. That's exactly what would happen. Tough debate. Mick says, let's say all physical demands are met. Then for me, a fish begging for food all the time or swimming away super scared is a unhappy fish. Opposite is a fish going on doing his or her thing, or happy fish. Um, yeah, definitely. Um, Meeting their demands and needs. Yeah, I agree. And then the other thing though, like I was saying, in the wild, these fish may only live 3 years. The other thing that happens to the majority of fish that we keep in our aquarium, very popular fish, is we keep them in a year-round, pretty similar environment. But in the wild, they have dry season, wet season, and seasons when they're being hunted more than others and things. They have global warming. They have cooling. They face things, drought. They face famine when they don't have enough food. They face algae blooms. So almost in all cases, in captivity, under the right captivity conditions, these fish can live longer. And so to me, if they are mimicking, and this is why to me, it is so important to do the work that people like Ivan Mikolji or Chris Lukoff or Heiko Blair or I guess you've got also Gary Lang, people who go out and watch the fish in the wild, discover new species, document their ecosystem, what's hunting them, what maladies they have naturally, commonly, and also what it is they're eating so that we can replicate that in good ways too, not just know the bad things. But it makes me think that they might, have the foresight when you go out and do that, then you have the foresight to take note of those things, bring it back into the hobby. And I think that's what determines what fish we should be keeping is a combination between, can we make it live longer and healthy? Is it doing reproduction? Because to me, that's a good sign. If it wants to reproduce, it feels that there is enough food in the environment generally, because that's the way you limit, for instance, snails, which have probably not the best brain. We're going to guess on that. They're not like renowned maze solving creatures or anything, but they won't even reproduce if there's not food for the babies. This is why it's so important when you're breeding fish, spawning fish, to have a good, environment for them, clean water and so forth. But it's usually important to feed the parents live food before, or frozen food at least, good high protein food and small food, because many, many species will not have babies unless they know that those babies have food. Which, evolutionarily, it makes sense. Why would you waste the energy of the risk of doing a mating dance out in public, being a bright, colorful fish and moving around like a freaking fishing lure, if it were going to just get eaten immediately, or if they were going to starve immediately? And so I think if we can recreate the urge for them to spawn in an aquarium, I think it's another major indicator that at least they're content. I don't know about happy.
And I think that's one of the reasons I like the way your tanks are all set up. It has so much environment that they can move in and find comfortable spots for themselves. And I think that changes the experience for them and gives them an opportunity to feel at home, as it were.
Yeah, and I agree. I think planted tanks, or at the very least fake plants and hardscape for them to hide in, are crucial. To me, I think that the chemical elements of the tank are crucial. That being the minerals, the hardness of the water, the pH of the water. And that's important for spawning too, in a lot of things too. Yeah, Master Python says more than 99% of fish get eaten as fry or juveniles in the wild. Yeah, exactly. And I'm gonna mention something else too, but I also saw David, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. The super chats are very appreciated this month. This month, no fault of any of you wonderful people. You guys kick ass. You guys rock. But it's a slow month because people are out hiking and doing great things outdoors, which is great. But the views are down like 40 or 50% on the channel. And so, one, it kind of makes me say, do I really want to do big research projects that spend 20 or 30 hours into the making of to release them when a lot of people who would value them aren't around? And so, it's good to me to do videos more like this that are less like meticulous research that's not gonna not enough of the subscribers, even people who are known to want to watch this channel are around. And so that's kind of why we're doing some of these episodes in the summer and stuff. And it's why I haven't done a ton of really dense history episodes, although I feel like my cleanup crew and episode was pretty extensive. I'm trying to go back and touch on some of the topics that I covered early on in the creation of the channel so that those of you who are new to fish keeping can touch on it. But I'm trying to address those topics that new people need to understand in order to have a happy, healthy ecosystem with tidbits of information that are in it for you guys who've been in the hobby 20, 30 years. I'm trying to find interesting stuff still. So I'm still trying to do that right now. But as far as the stories of like, here's a historical story about an expedition and here's all the timeline and the dates and all that. That's why we're holding off a little bit on that. Probably till September, till after the aquascaping contest, honestly. Oh, it all started with 2 bettas, $5. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. If everybody threw in $5, I would have so much money I wouldn't know what to do with it. That'd be $125,000 I'd have if that happened. So when people say, "Hey, sorry, I can only throw in $1," don't be sorry. That's so helpful. Thank you. So I appreciate it. Just wanted to say, Pompeii Ranch, $3. Thank you so much. I appreciate you too. I appreciate all of you, regardless. Really engaging and talking and voicing your opinion, telling me the cool stuff you guys know that I don't know. All of this stuff is what I really value in this channel. It's not about how long you live, guys. I value you for other reasons, like how many babies you can have.
You were talking about the babies earlier, and most industrialized countries are not having enough babies to support the population. Is that a tell sign about what's going on?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, Japan doesn't have enough kids to take care of their last generation. They're going to have robots.
Far field, it's just tied into it.
Yeah, no, I understand. And there's definitely different reasons for that too. But it is funny to think of that. All right. Hey, it's a case of Dr. Pepper. Will, what's up? I don't have a case of Dr. Pepper handy.
Pretty close.
Oh, wait, I guess I do. I guess I do. Yeah, I guess I do. Pete, what's up from Perth? My buddy Pete, awesome aquascaper. Check out his Instagram if you like aquascaping, by the way. But for the love of plants, he gave me a super chat. I appreciate that, buddy. And then also, Careful Nature Design says, I'd love if you looked at my channel, Alex. No. Moving on. Yeah, of course I'll take a look at your channel, and I'll let you know what I think of it. And if it's awful, I'm gonna talk about it for like a half hour on the next episode. Alex, you should get some fish decals and put them on the windows. Kind of looks like a tank with the shrubs out there.
It does.
Yeah. Especially like because this is summer, and in as far north as I live, the sun will not be this far north most of the rest of the year. It goes south for the winter, essentially. the way that things change. So this room's going to be really dark for like the next 6 months. This is the brightest time it'll ever have this summer right now. Mason, thank you so much. I don't recognize the name as being on here for a long time or a whole lot of you, but I really appreciate that. Thank you. That makes it all the more special when those of you who are either lurkers or are new to the channel see something that's worthwhile. Thank you. Deep substrate and developing a food web inside your aquarium. I feel lost. I feel is lost on most of us newbies. Well, that's just it. I mean, and that's what Greg's talking about is the fact that these aquariums are full to the brim with plants to the point where I need to clear them out and actually give the fish more room to move.
This stuff here.
Oh yeah, the substrate.
Yeah, because that's feeding all the stuff up above it as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so people who are new to the hobby may not realize that your soil and substrate, the rocks, the gravel, the poop, honestly, all of that is what's really, really important in your aquarium. In fact, when I moved, that was the stuff that I wouldn't let die. I had to keep the tanks at least heated. And yes, it let me keep some of the small fish in, but I was more worried about the stratified layers of my substrate dying because of the bacteria, the mold being poop and plant debris that's broken down. And why is this so dark? This light is like super bright on us right now. Anyways, whatever. Dolbeck Aqua Designs. Hey, Alex, I recently loved the video on the history of tissue culture plants, and I highly recommend it to everyone. Oh, you love my video on that? Yeah, there are a lot of old videos that I've got, and I appreciate that so much too, that you went back and found that, because I've done a lot of deep dives that I feel like there's like 600 views on. But I feel like a lot of people who like my really nerdy episodes, there's 5 years of those. And have they gotten better recently? Hopefully, but they were still pretty much the same. I approached them the same way back then too. So if you ever are in the mood or curious about something, a lot of times people ask me questions and I'll say, hey, I did a video on that. Why don't you go to my main page and then go into the search bar and search for, the secret history and then tissue cultures, or the secret history and goldfish or koi. But I appreciate that. And I see you are up in Canada, it appears, Dolbeck. So thank you. And I love Canada. To the north. Up north to Canada. How about a video on old plants that fell out of favor in the aquarium hobby? Well, that would be an interesting one, but the aquarium hobby, we used to keep plants at the turn of the century and things. It was a popular thing to do because they didn't know what kept the fish alive. And honestly, most people didn't keep an aquarium unless those fish were from a local water source. So native fish were very popular in the 1800s. It wasn't until the 1890s that scientists first really figured out what was keeping the fish alive, and that then they had the aeration, the heat, all that was figured out. I mean, the fact that the tanks were aerated, they thought it had more to do with they needed a fountain. They thought they needed they called it, what did they call it? It has a funny name, but they basically they believed the same thing caused illness back in the day, and I'm trying to remember the name, miasma. So they used to think that health and wellness was due to miasmas, bad and good miasmas, or smells, basically, or invisible things floating around, which they were kind of right. But all the way back to Socrates and Plato and those guys, they thought that if you breathed in old stale air, that was unhealthy. Well, they also thought the same for fish, and they thought it about water, and so they thought moving water was better. They didn't even understand that it was surface agitation and that you need to, it doesn't matter if you had all the bubbles rising in the world, if you had a plate where they were hitting and then sliding off of it up out of your tank quietly, those bubbles wouldn't aerate your tank worth a darn. You have to have them popping at the surface tension of the water to really get it to mix in. Same with CO2. You want micro bubbles coming to the top and popping. But they thought that it was due to the smells and things, and so they had fountains. So they kept fish alive with those things. And then of course, when they made it to the tropics, they realized, oh, these fish need tropical heat and things like that. Well, they would do things like put heaters next to their aquarium, or they would put hot stones in a compartment that shared water with the aquarium. And so I've got episodes talking about the history of shipping and the history of how they got fish from those parts of the world on steamships up into cold parts of, London, Paris, Boston, New York, wherever you want to talk about. Also, let's see here. Man, the light has gotten worse, even though it's very odd. Yeah, okay. Also, Mina System, welcome. Ethics of importing fish like autocyclists where a lot die. So that's another thing that we can, yes, that's a good point. I mean, the fish that we import, and I hate to tell you guys, but there are a lot of fish that just die that are not rare fish or are not the fish you hear about. If you work in a fish store, you can attest to this, but essentially the fish that a lot of us know and love in the hobby, tetras, shrimp and things like that, a lot of them die. I mean, shrimp, they used to die at a rate of like half the shrimp being imported from Asia would die, unfortunately. And now we've got those numbers down. Less than 10% is usually considered good at each step of shipping. And in the last two steps, like in country, when it's overnight, then you would hope that it's none. But usually they say about 5% for a business is expected. So if you figure that there's 3 to 5 steps of shipping going on, I mean, you can lose more than 50% of a fish easily. And so that is something to consider for sure. But as far as talking about the plants too, the ones that used to be in favor, back then when they didn't know what was helping what, they just saw that the plants were in the water. So American plants were popular in America, European plants were popular in Europe, Australian plants were popular in Australia, Chinese plants in China, you get it, okay? Later on, we realized, oh, all plants kind of function the same. They do the same thing. And we got into more of the ornamental plants. And so there was a period up until the 1920s where it was more popular to have an aquarium that was almost like a vivarium, riparium type setup where you had water lilies and you'd have a glass, almost looked like a big bird bath, and you'd have it in your living room. And you'd put fish in it, but you'd rotate them. So every week or every few weeks, you could catch local fish from like sunfish, for instance, pumpkin seed fish, things like that. And then you'd rotate them through. Now, what really changed that were goldfish and koi. Those were some of the first fish to really be kept intentionally and not put back, and they wanted them to live a full life. That happened, I have to say that did happen early on, as early as the 1700s in America. There were goldfish breeders. In the 1790s, there were goldfish breeders in America. Maryland and Delaware were the two states where that was a really big thing. And later on, the first fish to really be considered good fish to keep ended up being bettas, gouramis, cherry barbs, or gold barbs, rosy barbs. Also, you'll see on the first order guides and things, swordtails and fish that are found kind of in Florida, Texas, Louisiana, killifish, top minnows as they were called back then a lot. And it was because they could keep them alive. And the plants also, like you were saying, back then they had they wanted the plants that would bloom, and so a lot of times they'd have an atrium or something, and they'd put the fish tank in the atrium because they just didn't have any sort of lighting to grow plants in an aquarium. So you either had to have it near a window, outside, in a greenhouse, or in a breakfast nook, something where you had that that light. Let's try. I'm just
Going backward.
I'm just so confused, or not confused, but so like the lighting, I knew it would be an issue here, but I didn't think it would, like, the camera would tweak out like deciding. I thought it would just be
Going back forward.
yeah. It might be because you and I are in different depths of field, so maybe
Get close.
yeah, we'll get cozy. Hi guys.
There we go.
Let's see here. When did Discus come into popularity? Not until the late 60s, early 70s, really. People did try them before that, but they were not successful. Angelfish, though, I have a whole video on those. And when the first angelfish were bred in captivity, some were in San Francisco. Well, first they bred them down in South America, then and just in outdoor ponds. Then they bred them in troughs made of cement or concrete. Then they were able to try to breed them they tried Germany, they tried London and Paris, but Berlin, Paris, London, Manchester, Lisbon was another city, and then the U.S., New York, and Miami were also places. Now, Miami was not much of a city back then. It was used for imports, basically. Miami blew up later. Yeah, we all know what we all knew what blew up Miami too. Yes, Miami in the swamp,
So has there been any, bringing back to the ethics aspect, has there been any books or anything on the morality question of fish tanks? And
I don't know of any.
That's what
it's interesting. No, I don't know of any. There's one called Your Inner Fish that links how we're similar to fish and what systems, like neurologically, respiration, evolutionarily, bones, things like that, like what we share, which I feel like kind of covers some of the, like, we feel the same pain signals.
It's just interesting,
but not so much in. There's been a lot of blog articles and things too about people talking about, well, should we keep fish? PETA and people like that say, should we keep pets? Period. But as people have already said in the comments, 90%, if not 99%, of fish die when they're fried. That's why fish have 500 babies. That's why fish lay an egg a day, or they have somewhere between 100 and 500, 1,000, up to 10,000, depending on the species, babies. I mean, the little Stiphodon that's on the thumbnail of today's video, we can't breed those in captivity. And this is something that I think we should talk about ethics about briefly too today, is what are the ethics of catching fish from the wild if you can't breed them in captivity? Now, I'm keeping them because I think we'll be able to, and I want to learn how to keep them happy and healthy, living a full life. And I want to, I'm actively publishing that information and sharing it on forums and things. But is it unethical to keep a fish that is not a completely renewable resource, in the sense that it has one habitat? Maybe it's a certain reef or it's a certain lake, and we're collecting them, but we can't breed them in homes. Usually the goal in our hobby is to get as few as we can from the wild, unless it's a very, very common fish, and then breed more in captivity. Early on, though, it was all about just collect the rarest stuff you could and be damned what happens. But now we're starting to realize that we can actually cause things to go extinct. Especially the real problem is when we don't do the research. So that's why it's so important when we discover a new species to fund that new species, to fund the expedition, to document what they're eating. Are they eating the microfauna in the river? What are their predators? Do they need the shade of the trees around the river? Because maybe there's palm oil plantations in the region, and as soon as they lose their shade, there's no point in protecting the region anymore. I mean, you have to be smart about the limited resources we have too. And so there's cases where you're ruining the water quality up the river. Like there's so much silt in the river because of mining or something, or logging, and losing erosion in the river, that there's not enough oxygen. So for like salmon around here, it's been too hot for them. They've been dying. But they're a protected species. But does it make sense to protect a river if it's already past the point of that fish being able to exist? And it's like, okay, well, let's work on one we can save. So that's one thing. It's the fish's choice. You can go in the wild, get torn apart by teeth or killed by disease, live in a 20-gallon, and eat all the food and get all the fresh water you want and mate with other fish whenever you want. Yeah, I mean, Son of Quack, I agree. As long as it has enough space and it has its basic needs met, I think we're providing them better lives in general, because we also treat them for illness.
And we take the predators away in this.
Right. Yeah. If you can keep them healthy and breed them, I can't see that being a problem. Fishes in the wild die all the time. Yep. Sounds like we're mostly on the same agreement here. Just a thought that came to me. Since the word ethic is a word scaped by humans, this means that this word will never be able to be interpreted in an objective way.
No, we talked about that earlier, but it's
Anthropomorphizing, yeah. So it's
what you do.
Yeah, no matter what, it's going to be a problem applying human senses and logic to a fish, because I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's going to be that same old question too. Does Greg see the same color blue I do?
Right.
And we can say we have the same photoreceptors shaped the same way, and that the light, the prisms that, or the wavelengths of light that reflect off of that angle should be, whatever Kelvin, and so it should be a blue color. But that doesn't mean that his brain is interpreting blue to mean blue. I mean, there's colorblind people, and you can see that's a structural loss of the rods or cones in some cases, depending on the type of blindness going on. But there's also kinds caused by head injury, and they still have all their rods and cones and all that. Yes, is the dress blue and black or white and gold? Yeah, exactly. That old internet thing. Too coolie for schoolie, what's going on? We fish people have the opportunity, passion, power to help fish in the present and future. On that note, and on Ivan Mikolji, who did this book here, The Fishes of the Orinoco. And like I was saying, so important to know where your fish come from, what it is they do, what it is their habitats. Bye, Greg. This is what this is what their habitats look like. I mean, this book is great in that it shows you. He didn't pick just the prettiest site. He picked what it looked like where most of the fish live. This fish lives on sand with some algae and some little bugs. And then he's got notes all about what it eats, what it does in the day, whether it's open in the day, what all the water conditions are. But the reason I'm bringing this up again, too, is because he's only going to be offering this book another week or two at our crazy sale price, which if you guys missed it, the password for it, I'm treating you guys who are listening this far into this episode. The password is secret20, all caps, no spaces. and that will get you on Ivan Mikolji's site. I'll put the info in the description after we get off here, but that will get you his book for $100 flat delivered to your house. Whereas this, I paid 175 plus shipping for a signed first edition. It's a 400-page book with over 1,000. I mean, covering over 1,000 species in theory. I mean, look at these pictures. He spent 20 years. Whoa. 20 years gathering these pictures. Where is that? Oh, right here. That is a bloom underwater and a little fish nibbling the algae off it. I mean, how long did it take him to wait and find that scene? I mean, pretty crazy. The amount of species that he covers in this, and then also a bunch of the proceeds are going to our new nonprofit, which we'll be talking about more in the future. But you guys, I have a whole live stream about our nonprofit being set up. Ivan and I, and his sister as well, is in on that. Yelka is her name. And we're working really hard on that. That's consuming quite a bit of my time right now because we're trying to figure out how to form it all. And it's all set up now as a 501c3, which will be able to have donations. But right now we're sourcing who's going to do the, yes, there are Oscars in the book for sure. We're sourcing which system we're going to make the website and the app with so that we can do crowdfunding without giving a percentage to a money handler, basically, so that all the proceeds, we can get rid of as much bureaucracy as possible. There's 3 of us in this nonprofit, and we're basically going to ask professors and scientists, grad students, or local indigenous people trying to make a renewable, trying to bring back runs of fish, or trying to sustainably harvest fish that are known to be sustainable. So that's one thing we haven't talked about yet too, is, Project Piaba is another great project in the Amazon, where they looked at the concept of, should we ethically be catching cardinal tetras and neon blue tetras and things like that? We get millions of these fish a year, and millions realistically probably die a year all around the world getting transferred. And for that matter, is it ethical to keep fish if you haven't done your research, because you're probably going to kill them quickly? I mean, you could argue that's just as inhumane as anything else that happens in the hobby. So the onus is on people to at least educate themselves, especially these days where you can get on the internet for free pretty much. I mean, you guys probably pay for your internet or your phone, but if you really wanted to, you could go to the library or, get some free Wi-Fi. But basically, what I'm saying is the ability to find out the answers to questions now is so easy that it's essentially neglect, in my mind, to not know, especially when it comes to a living thing. So Project Piaba went in, and they went in assuming, you know what, we can't fund Zen Ginger. You are the best mod ever. Thank you so much. You are so on it today. But I was gonna say, they went in and they thought, you know what, we're gonna need to say we can only take 200,000 of these fish, because in the dry season, those fish are born, and already predators eat 90% of the babies. 80 to 90% of the babies get eaten right off the bat, or fungi kills them as eggs or whatever. So then the rivers are all high when they're born, and they go swimming everywhere, and the river spills into the forests. And as the season gets hot and the rain stops and the dry season comes in, that river comes down, and any low-lying area of the forest becomes puddles, and then the oxygen goes down, and soon you're left with these puddles with millions of dead fish, and they're rotting fish, and you may think, like, what a waste, but the Amazon is very nutrient poor, and so it needs those dead fish, and it also needs the sandstorms from the Sahara that bring over phosphates in the form of dust. So if it weren't for that, so much phosphate material gets washed out of the Amazon annually, that it is only being replenished by about 2% more than it needs to subsist right now. So that's such a fine balance. That rainforest has spent 70 million years evolving. It's the oldest, well, Southeast Asia may be up there too, but it's one of two oldest rainforests. And that exchange of phosphates has determined how much those plants need phosphates too. So it's such a fine balance. But when you get those water where you get all the fish trapped and they die, it seems sad, and it seems like, well, that many die there, that many die when you go fishing. Surely we shouldn't be catching these fish and sending millions more to their death, or at least most people don't spawn them. I spawn them. I love breeding nanofish. And if you guys want to start breeding your nanofish, I've got lots of videos on that. So look at my playlist on breeding nanofish or breeding fish. I've gone over rasboras, CPDs, tetras, ember tetras, neon tetras, all sorts of different stuff. But what I was going to say is Project Piaba found out after monitoring it for years that there was no impact. The dry season, they had evolved for the dry season. They had evolved for 99% of the species to die every year. And the rest go back to deep water and they hang out and they survive. So what happens is the indigenous people just collect it during that almost dry season from those puddles, and they're fish that would literally be scheduled for death anyways.
That's awesome.
And then they're able to support the local. So in that case, I would argue it is ethically more responsible to buy those fish from impoverished nations, where their other options may be illegal gold mining that ruin that habitat, logging, maybe clearing the way for cattle to then have cattle ranches, which are just going to raise greenhouse gases. So then you get to the side of things that is a human life and how much money they make off of these fish. How much of that ethically are we? I mean, even if twice the number of fish died in our hobby that do, if that's supporting humans, children, if that was supporting your friends and family, how many tetras would you kill for your mother or your child to live, to not starve? I'd kill every damn tetra in the world.
No, about that.
If my kid was starving, or if my
That's true.
my wife was starving. Luckily, no one has to deal with that predicament. But it's just saying that
Now, going quick aside,
Yeah.
going back to the ones that are being collected in the puddles, is that the type of thing that the nonprofit you're talking about will be to advise the Aboriginal people of
Which
which
ones
to get and which ones not to
Yeah.
get, and that sort of thing?
exactly,
That's,
because also they've built dams, and just like they've said, hey, these fish aren't important. They've said that about a lot of fish. The same fish that IBAMA, which not Obama, IBAMA with an I, it's an acronym, just like his name but with an I, gets together. It's Brazil's governing body that determines how many fish and which species can be exported, imported, or caught. And I think animals too. They do like hides and other stuff too, like jaguar hides and rare animals. But what was it that you just asked me again?
about the advising the Aboriginal people about the which
Right.
fish to
Okay.
put in the pools that are developing,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Yeah, so the nonprofits, that's one thing they can do, is when we go in and we have information on how these fish live year round, then we know when to harvest them, if it's ethical to harvest them. And then the other thing that's important is, how are they being harvested? Because there was a time not long ago, and it still does happen in the Philippines, in Hawaii, in places where people were using dynamite and car batteries and cyanide and literally killing 90% of the fish and not caring, but 10% would float up amongst the dead ones, stunned, and they'd scoop them up, throw them in the canoe, They get back to the village or in their boat. Another half died. They don't care. It was easier than going down one by one and collecting fish. Yet they just blew apart the reefs. So there's a reason why, like the Butang being bred in captivity down in Florida, which you were with me actually, when we saw that at the fish place, at the Florida Aquatic the University of Florida Research Center, Florida State and University of Florida, and all three of the universities share info off of that place. Yeah, the one outside of Tampa in Ruskin. Oh, is the audio gone? Oh, you guys can't hear me. No. Somebody also said, Alex, the moral of the story is do not ask Alex what he'd do for a Klondike bar. When I said I'd kill all the. Sorry, getting sound out of it. I don't know. We'll see. All right, can you guys hear? It's not on, just weird. It's muffled. Is it still doing it? Well, we don't have the big mic set up right now. Tin can. All right, well, we're at an hour, so thanks for your time today, guys. We might just call it a night. That's very odd. We could hook the mic up, but Bentley's coming up at 6 o'clock, and I don't want to go into his time anyway, so we probably will wrap it up. I'm just looking at some of the comments because you guys say really fun and interesting things. If I'm not just cracking up, they're interesting. Fluval Flex 32 saltwater setup, good deal. Oh, awesome! Thank you, Randy. Yeah, post that. Share it with people. That's rad. Also, Aquatic Arts is set back up. But oh yeah, but what I was gonna say too, even if I am muffled, old tin can. I'm sorry, guys. Sometimes I'm just an old tin can. But this book is only for another week or two. At the price, then it goes back up to 175 bucks. Which sounds like a lot, but if you've never published a book in 1,000 print run, you don't know how expensive an all photo quality, oversized coffee table book is. Granted, if you print 1 million of them or 500,000 and it's at Barnes and Noble or something, and they get marked down over time, and they end up being $10 or $5, that does happen. But I've been only printed, I think, 1,000 of the book of the first edition, and it's very expensive to do that, especially since he lives in Venezuela and the printer is in the UK, and you guys, I'm guessing, are in either Australia or Canada or the US, and he's covering the shipping for free if you use that code, which is secret20. But we will tell you more about that, and I'll tell you guys more about the nonprofit I'm working on with Ivan. Everything's set up now. I think we're going to call it a night, though, because of the tin can effect, as it is now known. It'll now be known as the Greg effect.
Yeah, exactly. I brought it with me.
Yeah, he brought it with me. Yeah, we probably sound like, from the 1930s. So we meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but some sunny day. Okay. Oh, now the sound's back to normal. All right.
We didn't want you to hear that part.
Yeah, you guys are supposed to hear that in the old timey radio crap volume. Yeah, but Greg's here all week. If you have any lawyer fish related questions
or jokes
or dead questions, Grateful Dead or not dead, ungrateful, yeah, sure, whatever. We're down for whatever. Yeah, we'll be here. We'll be back, or I'll be back at least on the day is supposed to be Saturday, but I think we're going to Mount Rainier, which is a volcano. It hasn't blown up since 1792. Doesn't mean it won't. I have bad luck. But we're supposed to be at a cabin there. So Friday we will be streaming Friday night, like the Kenny slot. which I couldn't do this last week. Wasn't up to it. So I hope you guys got the memo on that one. If you guys were waiting for me, what incredible people you are, and what a dirtbag I am for it not getting around to you that I was out of commission. But I am feeling better. I want to thank all you super chatters, Zen Ginger and Mods. Thank you so much for your hard work today and being on point with the links and the live and just thank you. And then thanks, Greg. Also, this guy married my wife and I. He's part of our marriage.
Amen.
Yeah, he married us both.
We're all family.
Yeah. So hit that like button on the way out, or my attorney will hunt you down and give you a cease and desist order against your life. And Zen Ginger, round of applause for your hard work. You're the best. All right, yes, I am feeling better, I have to say. I still have pain, but I'm not in agony, and that is a good place to be. I think that what's his name? That guy who's my friend who lives in the same state as me. Oh, Bentley. Bentley Pasco's coming up next. He'll probably have something interesting to say. So check him out if you'd like. All right, guys, we're gonna get out of here, but thank you so much, and thanks those of you for watching, liking, for asking comments. Yeah, sure. Asking questions in the comments, and subscribing, hitting the bell alert, because now they turn the bell off on people. You kind of have to play with it with like a screwdriver, and it's kind of like start it like you would an old car if you forgot your keys at your car and it was someone else's. All right, guys. Good talk. Break. Go Wildcats.
Please. I don't know about that.
Bye, guys.